right, bowl season is here. Moving on to Friday afternoon with the Independence Bowl, Louisiana taking on the Houston Cougars in this spot, seeing Houston as a 7-point favorite and a very standard total at 57. My initial look on this game is this line did seem short. Houston has the far more explosive offense. They've become a lot more multiple throughout the season as Snead has turned into their number one back. They really struggled in the run game earlier in the season, but that offense has gotten better when they have a true home run hitting back, sharing the backfield with Clayton Tune. I mean, Clayton Tune is a far better quarterback than Chandler Rogers on the other side, and I also like how Houston finishes in the red zone as well. The issue is they have failed to pull away from really anybody this year. I mean, against Rice, they only won that game by 7. They beat South Florida by 15, but USF made a pretty strong push towards the end. We saw Temple play them to a one-possession game. And then, in the last game of the season, senior night for a pretty veteran-laden team, they lost outright to Tulsa. So they haven't been great in this role, even against clearly inferior competition. I'm also not a huge Dana Holgorsen guy, especially this time of year. I remember we faded Houston a few years ago when they were playing Hawaii. I mean, Dana Holgorsen's just 3-6 in bowl games throughout his career. I'm not saying you put a ton of stock into those trends, but there are some coaches who just might not have their teams as equipped to play in bowl games. That's probably especially true when you're coming off a season where you didn't meet expectations. So on paper, I think there are advantages for Houston in this game, and I think they should win this game by double digits. But the issue is there's been a lot of these situations for them this year, and they've consistently not won these games by margin. So can't be on Houston in this game. For as much as I like the Cougars offense, defense has been pretty concerning this year. Not against the run, but against the pass. I mean, they have consistently given up over 8 yards per attempt to some pretty poor quarterbacks this year. When you look at Chandler Rogers for Louisiana, I mean, just 6.1 yards per attempt. Came on later in the year when Ben Wooldridge got hurt. Doesn't have a large sample size. You would think that's probably not a guy you'd want to trust. But like I said, there's been a lot of guys who kind of fit that same mold and had no problem moving the ball in this Houston secondary. So it's very rare that you see a team be as good against the run as Houston is and then just completely give it all back with how bad they are in the secondary. But that's who Houston is, and that's why they really haven't been able to pull away in a lot of these games. Last thing kind of holding me off is Louisiana does a really good job of limiting explosive plays through the air and, pretty consistently this year. Opposing quarterbacks getting held to under 50% through the air. So while Clayton Tune is a senior, played a lot of football at Houston, he's had a lot of success, especially this year, towards the end of the year for sure. This isn't exactly an easy matchup for him. I'm interested to see if Dana Holgorsen does revert to Snead in that run game a little bit more in this matchup. Cougars should be able to win up front against Louisiana's D-line. Like I said, though, can't trust Dana Holgorsen this time of year. From a numbers standpoint, I think it does point to Houston when you look at these matchups, but for a lot of the intangible reasons, just can't be on the Cougars in this game. Houston is not running with as much pace as they have in previous years under Dana Holgorsen. Louisiana is a pretty average pace team as well. I will say I think each offense kind of has an upper hand in this matchup. So, maybe that lends itself towards an over, but I'm not really interested in that. I view Houston as a pretty volatile team, a team I can't trust. And for that reason, I won't have any action on this game.